Good evening and welcome to the Straight Drive. We have our esteemed guest, Dr. Suraj Mandal from New Delhi with us. Namaskar, Suraj Mandal ji. He's a social activist and has been working, he's a professor in Delhi University and has been working towards social justice for last 50 odd years. His grandfather was Dr. B.P. Mandal, who was the main chairperson of the Mandal Ayog or the Mandal Commission report, which gave reservations to OBCs, backwards and uh, economic backward society. And his report was wholly adopted by the then VP Singh government, but then there were protests all over the country in which the report, the commission resolutions were not be able to made law or were adopted fully. But now the struggle has started back again, and India Alliance under Indian National Congress and especially Rahul, so he's again started the thing about giving reservations based on economic backwardness as well as identifying the social injustices meted out to various people. And he has said that now since 2011 we had conducted the survey in which survey in which all the uh, castes were surveyed, but the report we could not publish for the reasons known best to them. But they asked the BJP government or Modi government to put the report in public and give the findings of the report in public. However, Modi government has not responded on that note as yet. But Congress on its own have taken the social justice bandwagon and they're trying to fight this election on certain parameters. One is for farmers, one is for social justice, and then they're talking about women justice. Also, around the labor codes, the justice meted out to people who are the working class, the majdoors and the kamera work. So, Dr. Suraj Mandal, I would like to ask you, since long you've been struggling, you're the third generation who's struggling for social justices, and previous governments also, pre 2014 also, when the Congress UPA 1 2 were there, things were always in a limbo. And 2011 census was never published, though they knew exactly what numbers of OBCs, Dalit Samaj people, or Vanchit Samaj people are there across the states, across the country. What do you think was the reason why Congress did not publish the report then and now asking BJP government to publish this report? I would like to know from you.
Sir, if you permit me, I'll give you a bit of background to the question what you have asked. Number one, I'll just make a small correction. I came to Delhi University in 1982, and I was immediately elected in Karodimal College in the Students' Union. And later on, I also went to be elected in the University Students' Union, which is a big election because more than 60 colleges and each college having average student strength then, I mean in late 80s, of around 2000, so 2 or 3000. So it went over a lakh. So it was a huge election, much more than one parliamentary constituency, which is right now. So I have been, and at that time, my commitment was for the students' interest. And I was one of the few students' leaders who also did well in studies because you had professional leaders at that time who would fail number of times just to remain in the students' union. Nevertheless, the struggle was on. And in 87, there was some sort of protest by VP Singh when he wanted to take some action against then Dhirubhai Ambani, and his ministry was changed. So I came to know VP Singh at that time because I invited him to Delhi University in a big function. And at that time, the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Munis Reza, didn't permit us to have any auditorium or anything. So ultimately, the meeting was held on the road crossing, which is called Morris Nagar in Delhi University. And it is a historic place because Jay Prakash Narayan, when he began his protest against Srimati Gandhi in 74 and all, the first protest had begun from this place when Arun Jaitley was the president of Delhi University Students' Union. So this is the background of my commitment and my interest in the cause, which can be said common cause or for the people or for general students. It was never specific to any community or any religion or anything of that kind, whosoever was there. But as you rightly said, my family for 3 generations has been in politics, because my great grandfather was Ras Bihari Lal Mandal, who was one of the founder members of Indian National Congress, the founder of Bihar Congress, because after Bihar and Bengal were separated, a separate PCC, that is Pradesh Congress Committee for Bihar, was formed then. And he was the and one important Congress session took place in Bankipur around 1916, of which he was the chairman of the reception committee, which is supposed to be one of the important positions in the Congress conventions, which were held every year, which is now also held, but maybe sometimes there is a gap. Now, coming to the cause of social justice, it was my grandfather BP Mandal was elected as the first MLA from my hometown, that is Madhepura in Bihar, in 1952 elections from the Congress party. And from then onwards, I was just going through the proceedings of the House. And he was talking about more representation to the large section of people who are unrepresented, either in a place of power or in the education centers or even in business and everything. So he had his own commitment, and when he became the first backward class chief minister in 1968, going against the wish of then Ram Manohar Lohia, because he belonged to Socialist Party and he had rebelled from there, and he was supported by Indira Gandhi, who was the leader of Congress Party then. But she didn't want Mandal to become the chief minister. But even then, he said, "I'll become the chief minister." So though his tenure was very short, for only 4 or 5 months, but he made a mark then. So in 1977, the government, when it changed, when Srimati Indira Gandhi was ousted from power, so for the first time, a non-Congress government was formed at the center, and the commitment was that the Kaka Kalelkar Commission, which was the first backward class commission, report would be implemented. But Morarji Desai said that this report is 20 years old and we need a fresh review of things. So he appointed BP Mandal, who was supposed to be in cabinet, but Morarji Bhai called him and said that, many people become cabinet ministers. People forget who was the then cabinet minister. But I'm giving you a responsibility which would be for the cause of the entire backward classes. And they'll remember you even after your death. He had said, and every time when there is the talk of Mandal and Mandir, or the post Mandal politics and pre Mandal politics, so I remember what Morarji Bhai had to say then. He submitted his report within the stipulated time. He got 1 year extension, but by then the government in the center had changed. Janata Party government had fallen down. Srimati Gandhi was again re-elected the prime minister of this country, but she never, abolished the commission or winded it up. She allowed the report to come, and she had this wish that it should not be more on caste, rather on economic lines. But BP Mandal had a clear mandate. He said the constitution only speaks about socially and educationally backward classes. Now, how parameters were set, and Mandal Commission was the report was so scientific that when the entire constitution bench of the Supreme Court sat over it, it was a full bench hearing. The no judges could find even a single clause which was against the constitution or against the norms. The only 1 or 2 arguments was, why do you base your data on 1931 caste census? But that was to be because after 1931, no caste census were held in India. So even Kaka Kalekar, when they had submitted the report in 1956, Kaka Kalekar had made an observation that we would have better studied this situation if, along with the general census, there would have been the study of caste also. When you count everything, there's no harm in counting the caste. So that, along with the economic survey, you can have an assessment of the people belonging to which community and what are their place in the positions of power and in the positions of economic well-being and all. So ultimately, now the argument, but it was not implemented. As you rightly said again, that VP Singh when he became the prime minister under the given political circumstances, when Chaudhry Devilal wanted to get a have a separate Janata Dal, so he was compelled to seek the vote of backward classes MPs. And VP Singh was a more clear-hearted person. I personally admire him. I had been very close to him. Even when he had died, I carried his body on my shoulders. So it was not mere people give the argument that it was political situation and all, but he could have said no. He knew the government was going to fall because out of both the BJP supporting the government and the left supporting the government, BJP had already given the ultimatum that we will withdraw the support. So he could have said no, but he did. And out of the 40 recommendations of Mandal Commission, one of them to give 27% representation to backward classes in central government jobs was implemented. After that, then the period came when you had privatization, and most of the government jobs which were in public sector undertakings were rather, there was no reservation, because once it is private, there is no reservation in the private sector. So the situation in this country was becoming from bad to worse in terms of representation. Now, coming to the present scenario, Bharatiya Janata Party came to power in 2014. Now, there was a bid by the present Prime Minister to say and reiterate that he belongs to backward classes. Now, let me be very clear that his caste was not there in Mandal Commission report. When he was in power as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and they had the Ghachi community to which he belongs, they had made a under some provisions, they included themselves in the backward class. Now he raised this issue that a first backward class prime minister is going to come, though that was also not correct, because Deve Gowda ji was the first backward class prime minister of this country. So he came with lots of promises to lots of people, including farmers, including the common people. None of these promises were kept, even in the first tenure, but people voted him to power. Though people like me have a caveat to that, that it was not exactly coming to power, but it was manipulating themselves to power through EVMs. But nevertheless, let us focus on what he did in social justice. The various communities. I teach in a college, so I come across students, and most of the parents they send their children to college, hoping that he will get a job somewhere, either in public, private, and if some of them are more ambitious, then they would like to come in civil services or become chartered accountant or come in a big company as a top by doing MBA or something like that. But just see the kind of fee structure what has happened in the country for last 4 5 years. It has shooted up. So a common person, even a poor person, and his son is very meritorious, or daughter is very meritorious, and even then, what they say, you go and take education loan. Now, for roads, you pay toll tax. For hospitals, there are middlemen who are insurance agents. Then there is Ayushman Bharat, which is a big scam of just in middlemen. So you are not giving the health
Uh, Dr.
infrastructure
Suraj
for the
Mandal,
country.
instead of criticizing the present government on various other issues, I also, because this is the first interview that we are doing with you, possibly this is first in the line. Probably we'll have many because our timeline allows us to continue
Sure,
only for 20-22 minutes. Since we have
fine.
about 7 8 minutes left, I would like to touch on broader subjects today, and then we can go into the finer prints as we go along with our
Okay,
program every week. What I would like to know from you is the social justice formula was given by VP Singh, as you said, what I understand. And Kalekar report was also based on 1931 census. After that, census had been conducted every 10 years. There was census in 91, there was census in 2001, there was census in 2011. 2021 census could not be conducted because of the coronavirus, but the government could have done it 2022 and 23, but they did not. And they're saying now will they get the census done once the elections are over? So 3 years will be past 2011. 2021 was the due date, so 3 years will be passed before they will even think of doing a thing. Why is this government not doing census, caste census, because they say we understand pichda work, we understand economic backward society, we understand OBCs. The Prime Minister, as you rightly put it, claims that he is an OBC himself by whatever which way, whether he was not born as an OBC, but he got entitled to, whether he took benefits or not is not very clear right now. What I would like to know from you is, what's the issue today in the sense, why is this government on a back foot when it comes to social justice, and what is the problem with this government giving data to public? That's what I would like to know.
I'll touch your question, which was earlier also. You said 2011. Why didn't the data come? 2011 there was a massive debate in Lok Sabha, and the entire political parties, all of them, made a consensus and common this resolution was passed, which was unanimous, which said that there should be caste included in census. But ironically, two important ministers of Congress party, whom I openly say that they are very much, one of them is no more, but both of them were vehemently anti-social justice. One was Pranab Mukherjee, who later became the president of India, and second is P. Chidambaram, who is now also in the present Congress party. He holds a high position. Both of them turned the resolution and they interpreted it in a different light. What they said was that this will not be counted along with commissioner of census, but what they will do is they will ask a NGO or some bodies like Ministry of Urban Affairs and Ministry of Rural Development to make a survey. Now that report came, 5,000 crores was allotted to that exercise, and the report came when BJP was in power, but BJP did not divulge the Congress. When the report was finally handed over, Congress party was not there in power. I don't know, only some of them, Arun Jaitley, cleverly, he had just let out few of those resolutions of the details of that data survey. Again, second time, now 2021 was the year when the second census was to be held. Now, what they did was they did not take up the exercise. You rightly said it was the pretext was Corona, but many countries in the world, whosoever conduct their census, carried on successfully, and almost all of them completed their exercise of holding the census. This government has lots to hide, what I feel, and they hide especially on the social front, on various. We met farmers yesterday along with you, and I could see even a farmer from Punjab. He may be a bit well off, and from Uttar Pradesh less well off, and from Bihar even lesser well off. But the problem remains the same for the entire country. I'm so surprised that the biggest ever one single community of this country, which used to be the plank whom every political party addressed before in every election, is now being treated so shabbily. In fact, the government has openly begun a war against its own citizens on the borders of Haryana and Punjab, which is ridiculous, and this should be condemned in no uncertain words. Coming back,
Oh,
finally,
yeah, yeah.
we don't know why BJP is not coming. They have stopped taking survey of unemployed youth. The Ministry of Statistics has been winded off. All the statistics which is supposed to be collected by the government, and in especially which are very sensitive. For example, unemployment is a very sensitive issue, and even similar issues, they are not being done. And every time you come up with certain figures which might be quoted from some international data or something, they will say that you are a toolkit of Congress party or some other opposition parties, and you're trying to destabilize the country, and you are a foreign hand. So this is what is happening, and I think this is not in
So,
a good
Dr.
place.
Mandal, what you just said was that this government is scared to give data. The Ministry of Statistics, the CAG, the NSO, the NAS, even on poverty data, what NAS says, and when NSSO data comes, there's a gap of rural and urban poor to the tune of 53 to 54%. That's the kind of anomaly we're talking about. We're not talking about 5% or 7% data, which is being disputed. Here is 55% data, even on poverty, by the rural household. what should be the benchmark for poverty, for urban poor, what should be the
Exactly.
benchmark for poverty. And that's a major part of social justice. Social justice is not just
Exactly.
about caste. It's not about a
No,
creamy
no,
layer. Yeah. It's not about people
exactly.
who've been getting reservations and getting richer every generation and still getting those crutches to walk on, so called. So this is the kind of propaganda which I understand from you right now. Is this is the kind of propaganda which is being propagated in the name of social justice, that these people have got enough, in terms of, we have taken, and also there's another data which says that 23 crore people are above the poverty line with the new survey which has been conducted in a jiffy. And it's very difficult to understand is that when you are giving 80 crore people free rations, and on the other hand you're claiming that our rural poverty has gone down by 11% and urban poverty has gone down by 7%, and we have 23 crore people in rural and urban households which are above an income of basic necessities. They are getting those basic necessities. And it all thanks to the Prime Minister Modi, because he didn't see no caste. He says there are only four works. There are Mahilas, there are Kisans, there are
Recently.
Mazdoors, and there are youth. But all the four people that he mentions, the India Alliance says they need Nyay. So what is not understandable is when you know these four categories, but those four categories are also not getting Nyay, then what is the problem? What is the main problem which is allowing such anomalies to happen where jobs are not being generated? There are lots of issues. See, this issue is not a small issue. And I would like to bring to you that we might be able to do a 10 series or a 12 series program just on this subject, because there are various aspects of the subject where people are not very much aware. And a simple narration is being given by governments, whereas they follow those narrations. When a leader
You'll
who's
have
democratically elected, and when he comes and says, no, there's also a dispute on how democracy is working right now, how people getting elected. So there's another subject which we may discuss another day. But
no, no.
what people,
You will have
I'm talking about what people
uh,
should do. Yeah, yeah,
one point. You
yeah,
will
yeah.
have lots of
I have
series on
yes,
education itself. I belong to a background where I am connected with people who are in
yeah,
education, higher education.
yeah.
You will be surprised the kind of situation which is there, and the kind of new education policy which has been brought, and there is no discussion. There is no, and I'm sorry, but various political parties have failed the nation. They have not taken up the issue. You rightly said that you just change the benchmark, and you have crores of people who are above poverty line. Suddenly you have they seem to have become richer or something, but that's not the point. It's not a correct understanding. It's rather a kind of fake situation.
Narrative. It's a
So,
fake narrative
and
which is
fake
substantiated by
narrative.
fake data. Fake data. And
Exactly.
that fake
And
narrative and fake data is allowing somebody to become a Vishwaguru, whereas whatever he does becomes magic. It's basically a magic
and
wand which our prime minister
and
has.
and one point what you said, that some people are getting richer. Exactly. The caste data along with economic survey will make it very clear that if certain particular section has cornered all the benefits of reservation, whether they should still be there or not. Your judgment cannot be based on any discriminatory guidelines except for the real data. And real data is there. Nobody can go against neither court nor the people nor the parliament. So I think you have rightly suggested. And let us
My last
hope
point
that,
to you, my last question to you, sir. My last question to you, sir. You talked about Bihar. Bihar recently had an economic survey as well as a social survey. And then post survey, when the schemes were to be implemented, suddenly the chief minister flip flops and goes back to his alma mater BJP and says that now the real thing will happen because Modi ji is here, he has the budget, and I'll be able to bring in social justice and economic justice by the current survey that I've done. Now, as you say, that this government is not very keen on doing a caste survey and economic survey, and a government which does it and wants to do something, they threaten them to join them back, and which means that even in Bihar, despite the caste survey, economic surveys, the schemes will not be implemented. As you are saying, schemes will not be implemented because they've been compromised. Now, in such a scenario, when states, as you said, the last point you said is federal structure. So it's again a subject where we can talk for hours on the federal how the federal structure has changed over a period of time. But given the current situation, I would like to remain in the present. Given the current situation, do you think that there is a ray of hope to bring in social economic justice on the line of what Rahul Gandhi is saying, what India Alliance is saying, what Congress is saying, or is just talk? Because opposition just talks before election, and after the elections they simply forget. They have amnesia. They're very short memories. Do you think this government will, if change, will again bring in a light of hope for social justice and economic justice in the country?
I have three observations in this. Number one, what you said about Bihar. When the survey report was coming out, it was openly said that it can be used either way. Either way is to implement more judicious form of support to communities and to bring about betterment of the entire population. Now what you rightly said, the chief minister was pushed to do all these things. He has been ruling Bihar for many years. Every time he resigns to become chief minister again, so we don't have much hope from him, and I think people will also ultimately reject. Second point is whether opposition, if they come to power, India Alliance comes to power, they will remember what all they are promising people. Now I have great hope from Rahul Gandhi. I have met him personally. I have spoken to him, and the clarity which he has of the different sort of injustices and the nyaya which he is talking about. Both you spoke about four communities. Now the present prime minister was all the time saying OBC suddenly found out now that there are four communities. He didn't say this earlier. He changes his stand every time. But all those four communities, you rightly said, have been targeted. So what we can only hope, and also I appeal to various civil societies who are more concerned about common betterment of the nation in every way, allowing all the sections of the people, not just on the basis of caste, also on the basis of region, religion, and on their profession, like farmers or the professionals. All everybody should have equal opportunity. So Rahul Gandhi ji has done a great exercise of the yatra, thousands of kilometers he has gone. And every time, I also travel quite a lot, but obviously not like this yatra. But, whenever I go, you can understand people. There's a saying that reading two books is not enough, but just one tour you make of one place, it will be as good as reading two books on that area. So Rahul ji has this, and we just hope that the common uh, consensus is for the change of the power structure. And if the India alliance comes to power, then it will be more of a duty, or what you are doing as a running this YouTube discussion and this exercise. We all will need to be pressurizing the government all the time to not to forget what promises they have made.
Very rightly put, Dr. Suraj Mandal. Thank you very much for being with us. We will have more panel discussions on these subjects of social justice, economic justice, and that what you talked about, the new education policy. It's a matter of concern for all the students, because if the new education policy is implemented, there'll be more people out of jobs who will not be able to find the right job or the right profile of jobs, because these jobs, the education policy is not allowing them, permitting them to become meaningful in terms of employment, in terms of technology, in terms of upgradation. The kind of manufacturing and other things which are happening in the country is basically on the last mile manufacturing we are doing, which is only assembling. There's no technology that we are developing. There's no R&D spending that our government does. So there are lots of other things that we need to discuss. So we will talk about it in due course of time. And thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for enlightening us on the social, economic justice which needs, which is there for last 7 decades. It's pending, and now the time has come where people have started asking for what is due to them. Thank you very much, and we will see you
And
soon, sir.
before I leave, I just want to say one. I would like to appreciate your role, both in terms of an activist and now as a social political analyst. I'm
Thank
grateful
you.
and I'm thankful that you invited me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.